Hello guys, welcome to my channel where stories filled with revenge, moral lessons and love are told. If you are new here, make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more amazing stories that will both entertain and teach you something about life. I remember the day vividly, like it happened just yesterday. I pushed open the glass doors of Powerflex Gym, the smell of sweat and rubber mats instantly hitting my nose. At 51, I didn't look like the other men who walked in their shiny sneakers, sleeveless shirts that hugged their muscles, headphones jammed into their ears. My style was different. Simple black t-shirt, gray joggers, nothing about me screamed attention. That was fine. I didn't come here to impress anyone. But the moment I walked in, I felt eyes burning into my back. I already knew who it was. Ethan, my wife's trainer, the man 10 years younger than her and more than 20 younger than me. The one I had been quietly watching, the one whose overly friendly smiles and late-night training sessions with her had not gone unnoticed. He was standing near the weights rack, chest puffed up, sweat gleaming off his arms, with a little crowd of his workout buddies around him. They looked like young wolves, feeding off his energy. "Look who finally showed up," Ethan said, his voice loud enough for everyone in the gym to hear. He looked straight at me, smirking. "The husband. Man, I was beginning to think you were just a story your wife made up." The laughter that followed was sharp, cutting. I didn't say a word. I dropped my bag beside a bench, unzipped it slowly, and pulled out my gloves. My silence only fueled him. "You sure this is your scene, old man?" he asked, swaggering closer. His tank top clung to him like it was painted on. "Wait, sweat, work. This isn't a chess club. I mean, no offense, but your wife deserves someone who can actually keep up. Don't you think so?" More laughter. Phones came out. I saw red lights blinking on, cameras rolling. I knew this was his plan. He wanted to humiliate me, record it, spread it like wildfire online. A spectacle. That was his mistake. He chose to make it public. Inside, I could feel anger simmering, but years of training had taught me how to breathe through it. Back when I served in special forces, patience was the difference between life and death. You wait. You observe. You let the other man think he's in control. So I stayed quiet. I wrapped the gloves slowly, pulled them tight, then moved to an empty bench. The weight felt cold in my hands, grounding me. Every time I lifted, I felt his presence circling me like a vulture. He wanted a reaction. "Bro, do you even realize how ridiculous this is?" Ethan shouted again, this time pulling more people into the joke. "Your wife trains with me because you can't give her what she needs. You're not man enough. Everyone here knows it." I heard the sting in those words, but I didn't flinch. I could almost feel the crowd's confusion. Why wasn't I fighting back? Why wasn't I throwing insults like everyone expected? That was part of my strength. When I was deployed overseas, I learned how to watch people every twitch, every grin, every false confidence. Ethan wasn't a fighter. He was a performer. He thrived on the crowd, on the validation. He wanted me to lose control so he could win on camera. But I wasn't going to give him that. I kept working through my sets, steady breathing, calm face, eyes occasionally meeting him. That drove him crazy. The smirk started to waver. He needed me to crack. "Man, look at him," he sneered, coming closer now, so close his sweat dripped onto the mat near my bench. Silent, like a dog with his tail between his legs. Diana deserves a real man, not some washed-up old soldier who pretends he still matters. At the mention of her name, something twisted in my chest. Diana. My wife. My partner, or so I thought. I had loved her fiercely, worked double shifts just to cover her mother's medical bills. And this boy, this arrogant trainer, thought he could stand over me and speak her name like a trophy. I set the weights down slowly, stood up and looked at him. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. My silence was a language he didn't understand, and that made him restless. The crowd shifted, sensing tension. Phones moved, higher angles adjusted. Everyone was waiting for the moment. Ethan puffed his chest, flexed like he was on stage. "What?" "Nothing to say." He mocked. "You're weak. You're a joke. Admit it, man. Admit you're not enough for her." I let the silence stretch, let the weight of it sit on everyone's chest. My heart was steady, my mind sharp. I wasn't here to trade words. I was here to choose the perfect moment. And as I watched his jaw tighten, his hand ball into a fist, I knew that moment was coming. He was going to push it. He couldn't help himself. His ego wouldn't allow silence to win. So I waited. Patient. Calm. A soldier in the middle of chaos. The gym had become an arena, the air heavy with anticipation. Ethan thought he was the predator, circling me with his friends, recording every second. But in reality, he had already made his fatal mistake. He thought this was a game of strength and noise. What he didn't know was that I had lived my life mastering the art of silence, and silence was deadlier than any punch he could throw. Ethan's hand finally twitched into action. He shoved me hard against the bench, the metal clanging under the force. The crowd erupted instantly, phones jerking upward to capture what they thought would be my downfall. I didn't stagger. I didn't even blink. Instead, I looked at him, dead calm, and that infuriated him more than any insult could. "You gonna stand there all day?" he barked, circling me like he was in some underground fight club. "Show these people you're not as useless as you look." His voice cracked just a little and I caught it. Confidence fraying. He swung. A wide, showy hook meant for the camera, not for a real fight. I stepped aside, letting his fist cut empty air. The momentum carried him off balance, and I nudged his shoulder with the back of my hand. It wasn't even a strike, just a redirect. He stumbled, windmilling his arms to stay upright. The crowd gasped, then laughed. That laugh wasn't for me, it was for him. He heard it too, and the red in his face darkened. He came at me again, faster this time, a string of punches meant to intimidate. I slipped each one, calm and controlled, like I was sparring with a child. Every miss drew more chuckles from the audience. The cameras caught his desperation, the sweat dripping, the way he lunged like a man who thought speed alone equaled skill. I didn't hit him. Not yet. I let him perform, let him burn himself out. My years in the field had taught me the most dangerous enemy wasn't the loudest, it was the patient one. And right now he was unraveling in front of everyone. "Stop running," he growled, trying to grab me by the shirt. I twisted his arm, used his own momentum, and in one clean motion had him face down on the mat with my knee pressing lightly between his shoulder blades. No force, just technique. The gym went silent. Even the music from the speakers seemed to fade. I leaned down close so only he could hear me. "You should have kept this private." Then I let him go and stepped back. He scrambled to his feet, humiliated, and swung again in blind rage. This time I caught his wrist midair, turned it and guided him down. He yelped as his body hit the mat again. The laughter was louder now, crueler. Phones zoomed in, capturing every second of the trainer who had built his reputation on strength being dismantled by a man twice his age without throwing a single real punch. "Fight back, old man," he shouted, but the cracks in his voice betrayed him. So I gave the crowd what they were waiting for. A single precise strike, not to his face, not to break him, but to knock the wind out of his chest. He dropped to his knees, clutching his ribs, wheezing. The room shook with gasps and whispers. I turned to the crowd then. For the first time I spoke. My voice was steady, deliberate. "You all came here to see a fight. But what you really need to see is the truth." I looked down at Ethan, still gasping on the floor. "This man thought he could humiliate me in front of you. He thought silence meant weakness." "But silence," I said, sweeping my gaze across every phone pointed at me, "is strength. It waits. I study. And when the time is right, it ends the noise." The crowd murmured, shifting, phones trembling in their hands. Ethan tried to stand, but I raised a hand and his knees buckled again, not from force, but from shame. "And since we're telling truths," I continued, my voice rising, "let's make one thing very clear. I know about him and my wife." The room stilled. I could hear nothing but the faint buzz of the ceiling lights. While I was working double shifts, while I was paying for her mother's cancer treatments, she was here. With him. Sneaking, laughing, lying. Gasps rippled across the gym. Ethan's face went pale, his act dissolving in real time. I pulled my phone from my pocket, scrolled, and hit the dial. The speaker crackled, and then her voice filled the gym. "Hello? Honey." Diana's tone was bright, rehearsed. "Say hello to the gym, Diana," I said flatly. There was a pause, then a nervous laugh. "What are you talking about?" You told him I was too busy, too cold, too absent. You told him I didn't care. Should I tell them what I was really doing, Diana? My voice echoed against the walls. The crowd leaned in, phones closer, recording every heartbeat. Silence. Then a shaky whisper. Please, not like this. I raised my eyes to the cameras. Not like this. You made it like this. My throat tightened, but I held steady. You betrayed me while I was breaking my back to save your mother's life. And you. I jabbed a finger down at Ethan. You thought taking another man's wife would make you a man. But today, everyone sees the truth. You're a fraud. The line went dead. Diana had hung up. The silence afterward was louder than any scream. Ethan sat on the mat, chest heaving, face crumpling as the reality set in. His friends who had been laughing earlier stepped back, unwilling to be near him. The crowd began to mutter, disappointment mixing with disgust. They weren't laughing at me anymore. They were disgusted with him. I picked up my bag, slung it over my shoulder, and looked down at him one last time. You wanted the spotlight, Ethan. Now you've got it. Then I walked out of the gym, leaving behind the sound of whispers, the glow of recording phones, and a man who had just realized his kingdom of mirrors had shattered in front of an audience. By the next morning, the video had exploded across every platform. It started on Instagram. Some kid from the gym posted the fight with a dramatic caption. Old dude schools cocky trainer in front of his own clients. Within hours it was on TikTok, Twitter, even Facebook. By nightfall, I was everywhere. Millions of views, comments rolling in faster than I could read. Some people called me a legend, others called me cold, but everyone agreed on one thing. Ethan's reputation was finished. Power Flex tried to control the damage, but the truth was too big to contain. Clients started canceling memberships. Parents didn't want their daughters training under a man exposed for sleeping with married women. Other trainers distanced themselves, terrified they'd be lumped into his scandal. Within a month, the gym shut its doors for good. The bright red Power Flex sign that used to tower over the street came down quietly in the night. As for Ethan, his downfall was brutal. He lost every client, every endorsement, every ounce of credibility. The videos painted him not just as unprofessional, but as a fool who got humiliated by a man twice his age. He tried switching gyms, but each one turned him away. No one wanted that kind of publicity. Word spread that he'd left town, trying to start over somewhere nobody recognized him. Diana didn't escape either. The video of my confrontation with her on speakerphone spread even faster than the fight itself. Everyone in her circle saw it. Friends, coworkers, even her family. She couldn't walk into a room without whispers following her. The woman who used to shine at social events now kept her head down, afraid of the judgment in people's eyes. She tried calling me, begging to meet, but my mind was made up. I filed for divorce, and I didn't do it quietly. I made sure it was on record, every betrayal noted, every truth laid bare. She cried in court, told the judge she made a mistake, that she was lonely, that Ethan manipulated her. But even as she spoke, her eyes betrayed the truth. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. The judge granted me the divorce, and with the evidence I had, the settlement leaned heavily in my favor. I walked away clean, while she was left with the wreckage of her choices. I moved into a new apartment downtown. Smaller, quieter, but it was mine. For the first time in years, I could breathe without feeling like a shadow was hanging over me. I decorated it simply. A few plants, a couch, some bookshelves. No reminders of Diana. No ghosts of Ethan. Just peace. Some nights I'd sit on the balcony, coffee in hand, scrolling through the comments under the viral videos. Patience is real strength. This is how you handle betrayal. Never underestimate the quiet ones. I didn't bask in the attention. It wasn't about fame. But there was something strangely comforting knowing my pain had become a lesson for others. Maybe someone out there, watching my story unfold, would find the courage to stand up for themselves too. It wasn't all easy. The loneliness crept in sometimes. After years of marriage, the silence in my apartment was heavy at first. But with time, I started to appreciate it. I went back to my routines, morning runs, evening stretches, and healthy meals. I even signed up for a martial arts class not because I needed to prove anything, but because movement kept me alive. The young guys in the class looked at me differently. Not with pity, but with respect. The video kept resurfacing every few months, going viral all over again like it was new. Strangers messaged me, thanking me for showing that revenge doesn't always have to be loud or violent. Some said my story gave them the push they needed to leave toxic marriages, or to stop doubting their worth. That was the part that mattered most to me. Not the views, not the clout, but the fact that my pain had been turned into a mirror for others. And when I thought back to Ethan's face red, desperate, broken, I realized I never hated him. Not really. He was a boy who thought taking another man's wife made him powerful. But true strength isn't about conquest. It's about self-control. About patience. About knowing who you are, even when the world is laughing at you. Diana tried reaching out again months later. A long text filled with apologies, memories, promises she could never keep. I read it once, then deleted it. That chapter of my life was over. Now, I walk into any room with my head held high. Not because I fought a younger man in a gym, but because I kept my dignity intact while the world tried to strip it from me. Ethan lost his career, Diana lost her mask, and I walked away with something priceless: peace. The story people still share online isn't really about a fight in a gym. It's about patience outlasting arrogance. About truth cutting louder than lies. About the quiet man who refused to be broken, and reminded everyone watching that strength doesn't need to shout. And so, to you watching this video right now, I leave you with this: revenge doesn't always come with fists or fire. Sometimes the best revenge is silence, patience, and the moment when the truth speaks for itself. Life has a way of bringing justice at the right time. No matter how deep the betrayal, no matter how painful the wound, you hold power in how you respond. Don't rush into rage. Don't lose yourself to bitterness. Let your silence build. Let your patience guide you. And when the moment comes, you won't need to shout. The truth will do it for you. Strength is not about age or muscles or noise. It's about restraint. It's about the courage to walk away with your dignity intact, leaving those who hurt you to face the weight of their own choices. So if you ever feel like someone is trying to break you, remember this: the quietest storms often leave the deepest scars. But those scars can be your armor, proof that you endured, that you overcame. And as I end this story, I encourage you to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what lesson you've drawn, because every perspective adds light to the journey. Together, we remind the world that silence is not weakness, it's power. Moral lesson: every story of betrayal leaves behind a trail of hurt, but it also carries the seeds of renewal. In my case, humiliation became a turning point, and patience became my weapon. The loudest voices may draw crowds, but it is often the silent, steady ones who rewrite the ending. Betrayal can cut deep, but it doesn't define you. How you respond, that is where your true character lies. When you're tempted to react with rage, remember: dignity lasts longer than revenge. Time exposes lies, patience humbles arrogance, and truth will always shine, even when hidden behind shadows. You don't need to shout to be heard. Sometimes the world listens best when you move with quiet strength. So wherever you are, whatever storm you're facing, breathe. Trust that silence has power. Know that your worth is not tied to someone else's betrayal, and that walking away with your head high is the loudest victory of all. Stay strong, stay patient, and let your story inspire others. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because every story we tell here carries a lesson worth remembering. Together we heal, we grow, and we rise.